10 years, 10 years of Destiny has led to this point, the final shape. I've been along for about 8 of those years. I joined towards the end of the Taken King, beginning of Rise of Iron era. My friend showed me this game in middle school, and I just fell in love so quickly. With the world, the story, the characters, even the gameplay. But I think for the past 8 years, what has kept me captivated, even when friends have left the game, is the story, is the world. And so to see this grand saga, this 10-year saga come to a close, it was something I had to see. And the last expansion, Lightfall, was really disappointing. I made a video about that already. And it was really messy. It was really disappointing, especially for it being that kind of Infinity War to Final Shape's endgame. It wasn't great. So my expectations going into Final Shape weren't that high. So I was just like, okay, if they can answer a couple questions that we've been wondering for 10 years and give us a somewhat satisfying conclusion to all this, like, that would be good. I can stop playing this game. That will be enough for me. But instead, Bungie's got to go and make one of the best expansions they ever have made. The Final Shape is absolutely incredible. I had so much fun playing this thing. And the story, man, they nailed it. They nailed it. I have a couple things, like 1-2 things. I was like, man, I wish they would have added that in. But besides that, I'm like, no notes. But man, this is just a really solid conclusion to this saga. And I was overjoyed. I am so happy with this expansion. Hey guys, my name is Jackson George. I don't normally cover video game content. This is kind of outside of my niche. I talk more about TV shows, movies, that sort of thing. But I really did want to cover Destiny just because of how important it's been in my life, and it's just something I really want to talk about. And it's what I've been playing this week. I haven't had time to watch any movies because I've been playing this expansion. A couple of brief things I just want to mention before we get into this review. I'm not going to be talking about my thoughts on gameplay or how certain things balance or what I think of prismatic, anything like that. That's not my area of expertise. If you want to go watch that sort of content, I'd go watch Dado. I'd go somewhere else. But I'm really just going to be talking about the story, the campaign. And then also, if you haven't played the Final Shape yet and you care about spoilers, go ahead, click away. Please, please, please go play the expansion and then come back, watch this review. But if you're someone who just does not care about spoilers or has already played the expansion, let's go jump into this bad boy. The Final Shape begins where we left off at the end of Lightfall. The Witness has gone inside the Traveler to enact the Final Shape. The Final Shape is the Witness's view of absolute perfection. The Final Shape would eliminate suffering, would eliminate the need to pursue purpose, because purpose would be handed to you. It's the Witness's perfect vision for the universe, a perfect stillness. And so we don't want this to happen. We don't want perfect stillness. Even though the end of suffering and being reunited with loved ones is pretty tempting, you know, we're like, yeah, but we don't want perfect stillness. We like blowing things up. We like taking loot. We can't do that in the Final Shape. We got to stop this thing. After a year of events that I'm not going to cover in this video, we find a way to enter the Traveler and pursue the Witness to stop the Final Shape from being enacted. As we go inside the Traveler, we realize that all these past memories that we've had of the Cosmodrome, the EDZ, so many different various places have just started popping up all over the Traveler. And that the Traveler has become a mix of the thoughts and memories of all the people inside the Pale Heart right now. So that means there's a lot of things from the Witness in there. There's a lot of things from Ikora's past in there, from Zavala's past, Crow's past with the Dreaming City architecture all around, and then us as well with the old tower, the old Cosmodrome where our ghosts first resurrected us. It's all there inside the Pale Heart, but it's slowly being distorted by the Witness's corruption of the Traveler. We also discover Prismatic, a new ability that allows us to wield both the light and dark at the exact same time. Something we've never been able to do in Destiny. And man, is it so much fun to use. The last discovery that we find inside the Traveler is that Cade 6, our former Hunter Vanguard and friend who passed a couple expansions ago is back somehow. So with Cade 6 back on his original fire team, it's up to us to stop the Witness from finalizing the universe, from enacting the final shape, and free the Travelers. I gotta say, this story is top tier. This is like Bungie flexed their story muscles here. They were going full flex. This was awesome. I really loved how they focused a lot on this Vanguard fire team. I felt like everyone, maybe with the exception of Ikora, really got a chance to shine, and we saw them struggle. I loved Zavala's arc in this expansion. It's so cool to see this man who once was unshakable in his faith to the Traveler completely lose his faith, but yet still remain steadfast to the mission, not succumbing to the Witness's temptations, but holding fast. And to see Zavala lightless without the light of the Traveler, and him having to come to terms with that, and at the end of the campaign being like, hey, Ikora, can you teach me how to wield stasis? It's such a cool character arc. I loved what they did with Zavala in this expansion. Also, I was a little hesitant when I heard that Cade 6 was coming back. Loved that he was coming back. I love Cade 6. He's like one of my favorite characters in all of Destiny. I was just a little bit worried about how they were going to handle it, and if he was just going to stay around, if this was a great reversal of what happened in Forsaken. Forsaken was one of my favorite expansions. It might be my favorite expansion, maybe up until this point. But I think they handled Cade coming back very well. They dialed back his humor from vanilla, which I really liked. And he was like kind of wise in this expansion, which kind of suited him. And I like how they handled his relationship with Crow, him forgiving Crow, seeing Crow as a different person as Aldrin. I loved that story arc as well, seeing those two reconcile, and then ultimately Cade passing the Hunter Vanguard to Crow. Just to see that story come full circle is just really cool. And although I do wish he wasn't brought back by wish magic, that's probably the one problem I have. You know, I think they handled it pretty well. And I gotta say, how they sent him off at the end was amazing. I don't think I could have come up with anything better. Speaking of characters I think the Witness was an absolutely amazing villain. Terrifying villain. I think in both the cutscenes and the gameplay, Bungie really showed how powerful the Witness is. This guy would one-shot you when you were trying to DPS. It was crazy. I went into the last story mission, I didn't play the raid, and we were getting to the DPS part, and the Witness just kept wiping out my 12-man team, just over and over again. I was just like, man, the Witness is strong. I think they did a great job creating a massive threat, and I loved the Witness's motivation, even though it became disfigured towards the end, and that's why people were deserting. It wasn't the final shape that they had in mind at the beginning. I love that motivation, and although it's not something like Thanos where we can kind of get behind it, I mean, we can see where the Witness is coming from. I think everyone kind of looks for perfection unintentionally, but there's just no way in this world that we could ever achieve it. And so it's a thing that we can kind of get level on, I think, until we see what the final shape actually is, and then we're like, yeah, we don't want anything to do with that. I also gotta say, loved the veiled statue explanation, them being people who want to leave the Witness, that don't agree with the Witness's goal anymore. That so cool. That is not what I thought the veiled statues were going to be, but that is so much cooler than anything else I could think of. I know a lot of people were like, that's going to be the winnower, but I'm glad it wasn't. But they also teased the winnower, so it's a great win-win here. I gotta say, this is one of the few times I feel like in Destiny where our Guardian actually felt like a main character in the story. And I think what helped with that is, one, having Cade 6 back. I feel like Cade 6 always made us feel like we were part of the team. Always addressed us in a friendly way, like we're just great friends, good old buddies. Like that made me feel like, oh, I'm a character in this story. Like this character doesn't just spout dialogue at me, doesn't just tell me where to go in the certain world. Like, this dude actually cares about my Guardian, and that's really cool. I also think us finally having more than one voice line really helped with that. Like when our ghost sacrifices himself, just begging the traveler to bring our ghost back. Like that was awesome. Really like, whoa, what's going on in the moment? But that was awesome. Because I always feel like in Destiny, we're always in the background. We're always watching what's happening in the world around us. But in this expansion, it felt like really, for maybe the first time, we were a part of this fire team. Like we were a character in the story. We weren't just someone kind of lurking around in the cutscenes. I really like that. And I hope that's something they continue to do in episodes and whatever Codename Frontiers is. This expansion, though, wasn't perfect. One of the things that I really wanted this expansion to do as I was going into it was explain more of the Traveler. And we definitely get that in this expansion. We definitely do. But I'm over here like, we're 10 years into this thing. And we still don't really know the origins of the Traveler. We don't truly know what it is. We have a lot of ideas. I thought going into the Pale Heart, like going into the Traveler itself, that we'd learn more about its origin. I don't even need it to speak to me. I really don't. We don't need any dialogue from the Traveler. But I would love to see the origin. I would love to learn a little bit more about the Traveler. And maybe point towards more future stories, especially if the Winnower is an actual villain that we're going to be facing in the future, which I'm not sure if we will, because I don't know what kind of implications killing the literal entity of darkness would be. The other thing, I feel like this should have been longer. I felt like the campaign should have been a little bit longer. I think it was pretty well paced. I know a lot of people were like, it was slow in the beginning. I thought it was pretty well paced throughout, but I got through all of it before the time block in like 5 hours, 6 hours, and then that was it. I was just like, one, loved everything we did in here, but two, like, could you give me more? I gotta say though, I can get behind the shortness of the campaign and the little time block we had where we couldn't progress any further, because the final mission was just that good. The final mission was the end game of Destiny, and I don't mean raids or any sort of activities you do after the end of a campaign. I mean like Avengers Endgame. Having everyone line up while listening to Zavala give one last rally cry, and seeing all these different characters that we'd come to know. Kaido's Cabal, Mithrax's House of Light, even Savathun showing up to fight alongside us. One of the three from the Hive Pantheon coming and fighting alongside us. Someone who used to be a big foe of ours fighting alongside us. That was so cool. And to have them actually interact within the mission was awesome. And then to finally see Zavala coming in with Stasis, I was flipping out, to say the least. I got chills. I think I got chills. Man, the final shape exceeded my expectations. It was so good. Was it perfect? No. I wish we got more information about the Traveler. I wish it was a little bit longer. I'm always going to wish we had a little bit more time with Cade, but I think they wrapped up his story so well that it's not that big of a deal to me. I think this is one, if not the best expansions Bungie has ever put out. To come off such a disappointing release like Lightfall and then to drop this absolute banger, I mean, props to the team, I gotta say. This was incredible. I thought that this was going to be the end of my time in Destiny. I was like, hey, I'm gonna wrap up this story, finally get the answers to the questions that I've been wanting for the past 10 years, and then I'm gonna dip. But after playing this expansion, I don't think I've ever been as excited for the future of Destiny as I have been at this point in time. But man, Final Shape exceeded expectations, was so good, and such a satisfying conclusion to the Light and Dark Saga. But that's what I thought about Destiny 2 The Final Shape. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys thought about this expansion. As always, I appreciate you guys stopping by, watching the video. If you like this video, feel free, click like, click subscribe. I hate bringing up these things, but it really does support the channel. But as always, you just watching this is enough for me. I love you guys. Thanks once again for stopping by. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. And until next time, peace out, bro skillets.